Welcome to Ancient Tech Decoded. In this episode, we breached the frozen perimeter of Antarctica to expose the terrifying truth about the alien base, the Nazis, and the doomed Highjump expedition. The lie is that Antarctica is a desolate scientific preserve, a kingdom of ice and penguins. That has always been neutral ground. The twist is that in 1947, the United States Navy sent an aircraft carrier, 12 warships, and 4,700 combat troops to explore it, only to retreat in panic weeks later after suffering classified casualties. The promise we make today is to uncover what frightens the world's most powerful military. A technology that didn't just break the sound barrier, but broke the laws of physics. Have you ever wondered if impossible is just a word we use for a technology that we have never been allowed to understand? So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you find the journey we are about to take to be a worthy one. Where in the world are you receiving this signal from? Let us know in the comments. Now let's travel back in time and deconstruct the story of a lost world. You are standing on the freezing sea-sprayed deck of the USS Philippine Sea. The year is 1946. World War II has officially ended, and the planet is exhausted. Yet, you are surrounded by the machinery of total war. To your left, destroyers cut through the dark, icy waters of the Southern Ocean. Their guns stripped of covers and ready to fire. To your right, a submarine sinks silently beneath the waves, hunting for something that does not appear on any nautical chart. This is Operation Highjump. The official press release in your hand claims this is a mapping mission designed to test equipment in polar conditions. But you look at the cargo manifest, and the lie dissolves into the freezing mist. You don't bring depth charges, proximity fuses, and combat-ready dive bombers to map a glacier. You don't mobilize 4,700 soldiers for a geology trip. You are witnessing a siege force. The Pentagon hasn't sent explorers. They have sent an armada. You realize that the classified intelligence reports on Admiral Byrd's desk describe the Antarctic continent not as a landmass, but as a fortress. The mission profile is illogical for exploration, but perfect for an assault. You are steaming towards Queen Maud Land, a sector claimed by Nazi Germany. Just years prior as New Swabia. But the enemy here isn't a remnant battalion of shivering soldiers hiding in snow caves. As you scan the horizon, the endless white wall of the ice shelf looms like the ramparts of an impenetrable castle. You feel the tension in the crew. This isn't a training drill. They are hunting a technological anomaly, a signature detected by long-range sensors. That suggests something massive, heat-generating,
We're losing the
and
shields. Brace for
non-terrestrial is
impact.
operating behind the ice barrier. You are about to engage with a breakaway civilization. The armada is deploying to seize a prize that could render the atomic bomb obsolete. An energy source that manipulates gravity itself. But as the fleet crosses the thermal exclusion zone, you realize the hunter is about to become the prey. You aren't knocking on the door of a military bunker. You are waking up a sleeping giant. That has been buried here long before the first human walked upright. The fleet is not prepared for what is coming over the horizon. You are strapped into the vibrating cockpit of a Martin P. Mariner. Cruising low over the blinding white expanse of clean maud land. The date is February 26, 1947. Your mission is ostensibly photographic reconnaissance. But your gunners are scanning the sky with white-knuckled intensity. The intelligence briefing mentioned black and hostile aircraft, but it didn't prepare you for the physics violation you are about to witness. Suddenly, the radar screen washes out with a massive electromagnetic plume. Your radio headset screeches with static, cutting off communication with the fleet. Then you see them. They don't fly, they interact with the air as if it were a solid. Rising silently from the vertical walls of the ice shelf are disc-shaped craft. Glowing with a faint ionization halo, they have no wings, no propellers, no exhaust trails, and no control surfaces. By every law of aerodynamics you learned in flight school, these objects should fall out of the sky like stones. Instead, they hover with absolute terrifying stability, mocking the chaotic turbulence battering your heavy seaplane. You watch as a squadron of Navy fighters attempts to intercept. It is a collision between the industrial age and the space age, the American planes. The pinnacle of 1940s engineering roar with the brute force of internal combustion, banking slowly in wide, clumsy arcs. The discs, however, move with zero inertia. You see one accelerate from a standstill to supersonic velocity instantly. A maneuver that would liquefy a human pilot inside. It performs a perfect 90-degree turn without slowing down, ignoring the G-forces that should tear metal apart. This is not a dogfight. It is a demonstration of dominance. The discs weave through the formation of heavy bombers like swallows, teasing a herd of buffalo. One of the discs emits a pulse, not a projectile, but a directed beam of coherent energy that disrupts the electrical systems of the lead aircraft. You watch as the massive plane loses power and dips towards the ice. Not shot down by a bullet, but neutralized by a switch. You realize the frightening truth about the thermal exclusion zone you have violated. These guardians are not protecting a military base. They are maintaining a quarantine. The infrared sensors on your belly camera pick up heat signatures, venting from deep fissures in the ice below. Vents that are pumping out warm, humid air into the polar breeze. The disks are defending a bubble of habitability. They are using anti-gravity propulsion, a technology that manipulates the fabric of space-time rather than pushing against the air. You are witnessing the Honabu craft described in shattered Nazi intelligence files. But the performance is far beyond anything German engineers could have riveted together. They didn't build these machines. They found the keys to the garage where they were parked. You fast forward from the grainy, black and white chaos of 1947 to the pristine, high-definition silence of a modern orbital surveillance suite. You are looking at the data feed from the satellite equipped with deep penetrating radar and gravity anomaly sensors. For decades, we were told that the bedrock of Antarctica is a lifeless, frozen archipelago, crushed under the weight of 2 miles of ice. But as you peel back the layers using thermal imaging, the map changes. You are not looking at a natural geological formation. You are looking at an industrial blueprint. The sensors detect massive heat signatures radiating from beneath the ice sheet in the Marie Byrd land region. The official explanation dismisses these
sensors
as
detect heat.
Volcanic activity. But you analyze the topology of the heat.
Sensors
Volcanoes
detect
are
heat.
Chaotic, messy ruptures in the crust that spew magma in irregular patterns. What you see on the screen is terrifyingly ordered. The heat sources are arranged in a precise hexagonal grid, spaced with mathematical equidistant exactitude. Nature creates chaos. Intelligence creates geometry. You are staring at a subglacial geothermal power grid. You zoom in on the radar cross-section. The heat isn't melting the ice into a collapse. It is sculpting it. The thermal columns create vast, domed caverns miles beneath the surface. Massive pockets of warm air and liquid water shielded from the surface blizzard by a ceiling of ice clearer than glass. You realize the ice shelf isn't just a barrier.
Glass.
It is a roof. It acts as a perfect insulator, trapping the geothermal energy to create a temperate biosphere in the most hostile environment on Earth. This validates the impossible maps you've seen in the archives. The Piri Reis map of 1513 and the Orontius Phineas map of 1531. These ancient charts depict Antarctica without ice, showing flowing rivers, mountain ranges, and inland valleys. Historians call them mistakes. You call them memories? The civilization operating here didn't disappear when the Ice Age came. They simply went indoors. They built a Garden of Eden beneath the glaciers,
never as golden
a
as the
self-sustaining
memory.
habitat powered by the Earth's own core heat. As you analyze the atmospheric composition venting from the fissures, the sensors pick up trace amounts of pollen and complex organic compounds. There is a living ecosystem down there, while the surface is a frozen desert where life struggles to endure. The subglacial megastructures are maintaining a tropical oasis. You are looking at a planetary survival bunker, a calculated refuge designed to outlast pulses, solar flares, and asteroid impacts. The volcanoes are the back system of a hidden world. And the steam is the breath of a civilization that has been waiting out the winter for 12,000 years. You pull your attention away from the satellite feeds and step into the dust-choked, concrete silence of a forgotten archive. You are holding the recovered, charred dossiers of the ANERM, the Ancestral Heritage Research and Teaching Society of the Third Reich. History tells us this organization was obsessed with occult myths and measuring skulls. But as you translate the technical schematics found in the ruins of Berlin, you realize the occultism was just a cover story for the most ambitious archaeological theft in human history. The Nazis weren't looking for magic. They were looking for the engine room of the world. You study the logs of the 1938 German Antarctic expedition, led by Captain Alfred Richer. The official story is that they flew flying boats over Queen Maud Land, dropping thousands of metal darts stamped with swastikas to claim the territory for whaling rights. But you look at the flight paths, and they don't follow the coastline. They follow a magnetic anomaly grid. They weren't claiming land. They were marking the precise coordinates of a subterranean entrance. They called it New Swabia, but the classified documents refer to it as Base 211. This rewrites the entire narrative of World War II technology. You have always wondered how a regime, in the span of just 6 years, went from horse-drawn carriages to the world's first jet fighters, cruise missiles, and ballistic rockets. The technological leap is too steep, too fast. The answer lies in the ice. You are looking at evidence that the Nazis found the dormant outpost of a pre-human civilization. They didn't invent the wonder weapons. They were desperately trying to reverse engineer them. Consider the legendary Die Glock, the bell. Descriptions of this device describe a ceramic cylinder, spinning liquid metal at high speeds, creating anti-gravity effects and warping time. You compare this to the Antarctic anomaly. The bell wasn't a weapon. It was a crude terrestrial attempt to build a copy of the power core they found beneath the ice. The Nazi scientists were like Bronze Age blacksmiths trying to build a nuclear reactor using copper hammers. They understood the basic shape, but not the underlying quantum mechanics. You realize that the relentless obsession with the Aryan bloodline and the myths of Thulian Hyperborea was a distorted interpretation of a contact event. The gods they worshipped were not divine beings. They were the tall, pale custodians of this frozen technology, the remnants of the civilization. That built the subglacial megastructures. The SS wasn't just fighting a war for territory in Europe. They were fighting a delaying action to buy time to transport the most valuable assets to the sanctuary itself. This explains the mystery of the ghost convoys. At the end of the war, dozens of advanced U-boats, like the U-530 and U-977, surrendered in Argentina or vanished entirely. They weren't carrying gold. They were carrying the bell, the heavy water, and the specialized scientists needed to restart the machine. You are staring at the blueprint of a breakaway civilization. The war didn't end in 1945. The losing side simply retreated into the fortress, closed the blast doors, and continued the experiment in the dark. protected by the very technology they had stolen from the ancients. You leave the dusty archives of the 1940s and transport yourself to the most desolate coordinate on the modern map. Vostok Station, the magnetic South Pole. Here, the temperature plunges to minus 128 degrees Fahrenheit. A cold so absolute that it freezes breath into ice crystals before it leaves your lungs. And you are standing on top of a mystery that is 4,000 meters deep. Beneath your boots lies Lake Vostok, a body of water the size of Lake Ontario. Buried under 2 miles of solid ice. The official scientific consensus tells you this is a time capsule, a pristine ecosystem, sealed off from the atmosphere for 15 million years. But as you watch the Russian drilling team struggle to breach the surface, you realize the physics of the lake don't add up. Water at this depth should be frozen solid by the rising pressure and the lack of solar energy. Yet it remains liquid. The textbooks say it is due to geothermal flux. But you look at the thermal maps again, the heat isn't distributed randomly like natural volcanic vents. It is concentrated in a perfect ring around the lake's perimeter. You are not looking at a natural lake. You are looking at a massive industrial coolant system. Analyze the magnetic anomaly detected on the lake's northern shore. It is a powerful, localized magnetic field that disrupts compasses and jams aircraft instruments. Geology doesn't create magnetic fields with hard, right-angle boundaries. Technology does. The lake acts exactly like the heavy water tank in a nuclear reactor. Designed to absorb neutron radiation and dissipate the immense waste heat generated by a high-output power source. The geothermal vents are the exhaust ports of a machine that has been idling for eons. This recontextualizes the biological samples brought up from the borehole. Scientists were baffled to find DNA sequences that matched no known phylum on Earth. Microbes that thrive in high-pressure, oxygen supersaturated environments. You realize these aren't just random extremophiles. They are the leakage from a biological containment breach. The lake is a suspension fluid.
Shield against radiation.
Zoom out and look at the architecture of the anomaly.
Shield against radiation.
The data suggests a massive metallic structure buried in the bedrock, submerged in this artificial ocean. This is a cryostasis chamber. The civilization that built this didn't flee the planet. They hit the pause button. They used the ice sheet as a shield against cosmic radiation. And the lake as a thermal regulator to maintain a perfect state of suspended animation. The terrifying implication is that the lake is a life support system for thousands of occupants sleeping in the dark. And recently, the temperature of the lake has been rising. The tides beneath the ice are shifting. You are witnessing the defrost cycle of a facility that was never meant to be a tomb, but a dormitory. The drilling projects aren't just exploring. They are risking waking up the tenants. You have to ask yourself if the coolant pumps are ramping up. What is happening to the core temperature of the thing sleeping inside? You stand before a massive, rotating, holographic projection of the Earth, stripping away the oceans and vegetation to reveal the bare geometry of the planet. For centuries, archaeologists have studied ancient sites like the Great Pyramid of Giza, Teotihuacan in Mexico, and Angkor Wat in Cambodia as isolated anomalies, tombs, and temples built by disconnected cultures. But as you overlay the electromagnetic field lines of the Earth onto the map, the isolation vanishes. You are not looking at separate ruins. You are looking at the components of a single integrated circuit board. And all the wires lead to the South Pole. You trace the ley lines, the telluric energy currents that flow through the Earth's crust. Notice the alignment. The Great Pyramid is not just a pile of rocks. It is a piezoelectric generator built on a massive aquifer, designed to resonate with the Earth's frequency. But a generator needs a destination. If you follow the longitudinal meridian from Giza south and the alignment from the megaliths of South Africa, and the geometric vectors of the Nazca lines, they all converge on one specific continent. Antarctica is not just a landmass, it is the planetary control node. You realize that Nikola Tesla didn't invent wireless energy transfer in the early 20th century. He rediscovered it. His Wardenclyffe Tower was a crude attempt to tap into this ancient grid. Tesla knew that the Earth is a massive spherical capacitor. The ionosphere is the positive plate. The ground is the negative plate, and the atmosphere is the insulator. But to make the circuit work, to transmit power wirelessly to any point on the globe without loss, you need a primary ground station, a stabilizer to regulate the flow. Look at the physics of Antarctica. It is covered in a mile-thick sheet of pure crystalline ice. In electrical engineering, pure ice is a dielectric, perfect insulator. The continent is essentially a massive non-conductive cap sitting on top of the Earth's magnetic pole. You are looking at the world's largest natural capacitor. The alien base beneath the ice isn't just a bunker. It is the control chip for this global energy weapon. This explains the strategic desperation of Operation Highjump. The US military didn't go south to fight Nazis. They went to seize the master switch. Whoever controls Antarctica controls the broadcast frequency of the entire planet. The pyramids around the world are the transmitters, receivers, but Antarctica is the CPU. The system was designed to stabilize the planet's magnetic field. And perhaps even manipulate the weather on a global scale, a geo-engineering project of a Type 2 civilization. But for thousands of years, the system has been in standby mode, connection severed. However, the recent data shows a change. The frequency is shifting. The ancient transmitters are waking up, attempting to handshake with the server in the south. You realize that the global uptake in seismic activity and strange weather patterns isn't climate change. It's the system rebooting. The grid is coming back online, and we are standing on the circuit board while the voltage is cranking up. You stand now at the absolute bottom of the world, amidst the futuristic, stilted modules of the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station. But your focus is not on the buildings. It is on the ice beneath your feet. Specifically, a cubic kilometer of it known as the IceCube Neutrino Observatory. This is the world's largest telescope, but it doesn't look up at the stars using mirrors. It looks down into the Earth using 5,000 digital optical sensors buried a mile and a half deep. Its job is to catch neutrinos, ghost particles, that travel across the universe, passing through planets and stars as if they were smoke. Standard physics dictates a simple rule: high-energy cosmic rays come from space, rain down on the atmosphere, and are absorbed by the mass of the Earth.
Detected something.
A solid planet acts as a shield. Nothing with that much energy should be able to pass all the way through the globe.
Detected
and exit
something.
The other side. But recently, the sensors at IceCube and the high-altitude ANITA, Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna balloon experiment, detected something that made the scientific community go silent. They detected high-energy particles shooting up. You are looking at data that violates the standard model of particle physics. These aren't random reflections.
Baffling.
These are ultra-high energy tau neutrinos blasting out of the Antarctic ice sheet with the
numbers
force
are
of a
just
cosmic accelerator.
baffling.
NASA scientists are baffled, calling it an impossible event, because for these particles to exit the South Pole, they would have had to enter the North Pole and travel through the entire molten core of the Earth without hitting anything. A statistical impossibility. But you know the alternative explanation? You are not witnessing a particle passing through the Earth. You are witnessing a particle being generated inside the Earth. Connect this to the subglacial megastructures and the geothermal power grid you uncovered earlier. The machinery is no longer dormant. What the sensors are interpreting as a cosmic ray anomaly is actually directed energy discharge. It is the exhaust plume of a massive engine
Sending a
throttling.
signal.
The civilization beneath the ice is venting excess energy. Or worse, they are sending a signal.
Sending a signal.
Think about the timing. We have probed the ice with radar, drilled into the cryostasis lakes, and mapped the gravity anomalies. We have been knocking on the door for 70 years. Now the door is unlocking. The beam of neutrinos is collimated, focused, and powerful enough to punch through the crust of the planet. This is a transmission. You realize that Antarctica is effectively a planetary antenna, and someone just turned the transmitter to broadcast. The signal is aimed directly at specific coordinates in deep space. The ice wall was never just a physical barrier to keep us out. It was a Faraday cage designed to keep the signal in until the time was right. That time is now. The spike in energy readings corresponds with the magnetic shifts in the waking of the global pyramid grid. The control node is active. The experiment has ended. The stasis is lifting. And the tenants of the frozen continent are signaling their return to the stars. So, where does this leave us? You step back from the blinding white horizon of the Antarctic plateau and look at the map of the world one last time. You can no longer see the southern continent as a desolate wasteland of ice and penguins. You see it for what it truly is, a camouflage tarp thrown over the machinery of a Type 2 civilization. The panic of Admiral Byrd in 1947, the desperate occultism of the Nazis, and the baffling data from modern particle physics all point to the same terrifying conclusion. We are not the landlords of this planet. We are the squatters living in the attic. Here's a landlord living in the basement. And after millennia of sleep, the lights are flickering on downstairs. The question is no longer, what is down there? The question is, now that we have woken it up, what does it intend to do with us?
What does it intend?